Never, and I mean never buy a used Ford until you check these 5 hidden things. Because a Ford that's been well cared for can easily run strong past 200,000 miles. But a Ford that's been abused, that's a financial grenade with the pin already pulled. And the worst part is, the trucks that ruin their new owners almost always look perfect on the surface. I have seen them. They roll into the shop shiny, detailed, freshly waxed, no warning lights, nothing obviously wrong. But those are the same trucks hiding internal damage that has already started, and the buyer never had a clue until it was too late. The reason? Most people check the wrong things during a test drive. They admire the big touchscreen, they comment on the nice leather seats, they rev the engine once and decide it sounds good. But modern Fords, especially the EcoBoost models, can hide mechanical abuse incredibly well. You can drive a damaged one around the block and think it is perfect. Meanwhile, inside the engine and transmission, wear is stacking up like credit card debt. And when the bill comes due, it comes fast. But there are 5 very specific tests that expose those problems before you buy. These are tests technicians use behind the scenes when evaluating trade-ins. They are fast, they are simple, and they reveal how Ford was truly treated over its life. Check number 3 alone has saved so many people from destroyed turbo engines that I am shocked more dealerships do not talk about it. And the final check, number 5, is so harsh and so revealing that the moment I see it fail, I do not negotiate. I do not try to reason with myself. I hand the keys back and walk away every single time. So if you are looking at a used F-150, Explorer, Ranger, Expedition, Escape, Bronco Sport, Mustang, or anything late model with a Ford badge, you want to get this right. And the first check does not require a jack, a scan tool, or even opening the hood. It starts with something so simple that most buyers never think twice about it. Before you ever touch the door handle, test the key fob. Do not just see if it unlocks the doors. Push every function, lock, unlock, panic button, rear hatch release if it has one, and remote start if the truck is equipped. Watch and listen closely. The doors should respond instantly. The lights should flash consistently. The horn should chirp in a clean tone. If remote start is available, the engine should fire up within 1 or 2 seconds, stabilize into a normal idle, and stay running until you approach the vehicle properly. Many people think a remote start failure is just a dead fob battery or a little glitch. But on modern Fords, remote start is directly linked into the vehicle's safety and sensor network. The system cancels the start if it detects a fault with anything critical such as the hood ajar switch, the brake pressure sensor, the gear selector sensor, or certain emissions-related issues. If the remote start flashes the lights but refuses to start the engine, the truck is warning you about a problem that has not thrown a visible warning light yet. And if the fob only works when you are 3 feet away from the door, the remote keyless entry antenna or body control module might already be failing, or the battery voltage is weak, which leads to a completely new set of electrical nightmares. There's another big red flag: aftermarket remote start systems. If the remote start behaves strangely, stalls the truck when you open the door, or needs some goofy button sequence to keep running, that means someone spliced into Ford's wiring. I have seen engines, modules, and entire harnesses ruined by cheap installations. If I am buying a Ford for myself, I want factory electronics only. Clean key fob performance is the very first sign that the truck's electrical system has not been hacked apart or left to rot. Once the electronics pass that test, you can move to the heart of the truck, the engine. This is especially critical for EcoBoost engines: 1.5 liter, 2.0 liter, 2.3 liter, 2.7 liter, and 3.5 liter turbo motors. They produce amazing power and fuel economy, but neglect them, and carbon buildup destroys them silently. Take the oil fill cap off with the engine turned off. Shine your phone flashlight down into the hole. What you are looking at are parts of the Powertrain. They do not tell the whole story, but they tell enough. In a well-maintained engine, these parts should appear as clean metal surfaces with a light amber oil film. That is normal, healthy, exactly what you want to see. But if you see dark, burnt-looking varnish, gooey sludge, thick deposits stuck to the metal, anything crusty, that means neglect. That engine has been living on cheap oil and long oil intervals. Maybe the previous owner idled the truck every morning for 20 minutes. Maybe they drove only short distances and the oil never reached full operating temperature. Maybe they ignored the maintenance reminders completely. All those habits lead to carbon-choked intake valves and premature turbo wear on EcoBoost engines. While you are checking, pull the dipstick and smell the oil. If it smells heavily like gasoline and feels thinner than it should, the oil is fuel diluted, which happens when the engine runs too rich or never gets hot enough to burn off condensation. Fuel-diluted oil means bearings are wearing faster than they should, and cooling and lubrication inside the turbo become dangerously compromised. If the oil looks clean and smells normal, that does not guarantee perfection, but a nasty oil cap and a fuel-soaked dipstick guarantee trouble. Next, pay attention to the transmission, but here is where everyone makes the same mistake. They judge the transmission when the truck is fully warmed up from a detail bay. That hides the truth. A worn or overheated transmission will shift okay once the fluid is hot. What you want is a cold start transmission evaluation. Start the vehicle cold, put your foot on the brake, shift slowly from park into reverse, feel the timing, feel the smoothness. Then go from reverse to neutral, neutral to drive, and drive back to reverse. Take your time. When the transmission is healthy, every gear engagement feels deliberate, fast, and consistent. But if you feel a delay longer than 1 second before the truck actually engages, that is a sign clutch packs are worn. If you feel a jolt, a bang, or any harshness when it drops into reverse, that is early valve body wear or transmission pump fatigue. This is particularly important for the 6-speed and 10-speed Ford automatics. The 10-speed is fantastic when treated right, but tow frequently in normal mode and it overheats fluid fast. Combine overheated fluid with no fluid changes, and you are looking at slipping, hard shifting, and expensive repairs far earlier than anyone expects. Then, during the first mile of the test drive, listen closely during low-speed upshifts. Does the engine rev briefly before the gear catches? Does the truck shudder slightly between gears? Does it hesitate, then slam into gear once it decides what to do? Those are internal clutch wear symptoms that often disappear once warmed and only show up during the cold test. If the truck fails this moment even slightly, you are gambling with a repair that can cost $3,500 to $7,000 depending on the model. The fourth check, the exhaust condensation test, exposes engine health in a way that no seller can prepare for. On a cold morning when you start the truck, vapor will come out of the tailpipe. That is condensation. But that vapor tells a story. Put your hand near the exhaust exit and catch a few droplets on your palm or fingers. On a clean engine, that should feel like pure water with maybe the slightest dusting of soot, completely normal. But a greasy film or gritty residue suggests oil or unburned carbon passing through the combustion process. That can mean worn turbo seals or piston ring issues. Then smell the vapor, not by directly inhaling the exhaust, but just close enough to catch the scent. A strong, raw fuel smell that lingers beyond the first few seconds means there are misfires or injector issues. A sweet smell, very important, means coolant is making its way into the cylinders. That is head gasket or cracked head territory. A burnt oil smell means internal oil burning has begun, and that will only get worse. Watch how long the heavy vapor lasts. A healthy engine clears quickly. If the truck continues puffing thick, visible vapor after others in the same weather have cleared up, something is wrong internally. All of this happens before the truck even finishes idling through its warm-up cycle, yet almost nobody checks it. Now step back and think about the pattern here. You are no longer seeing just a shiny body and a clean dashboard. You are reading how this Ford has actually lived. You are seeing whether someone followed Ford's maintenance requirements or ignored them until the truck started to suffer. Every single one of these tests reveals a hidden truth. And yes, the most important test of all is still ahead. That final check exposes whether the truck has been consistently abused while driving. It does not matter how clean the interior is. It does not matter how fresh the oil is. If that last check fails, the truck's long-term health is already compromised. You are more than halfway to becoming an expert used Ford buyer. When you learn this fifth test, the one almost nobody talks about, you will never get stuck with an abused Ford again. You will know exactly when to buy and exactly when to walk away. Absolutely continuing part 2 in the same tone, pacing, structure, and level of technical depth. No bullet points, no chapter headers. This will complete the full script to your target length of 2,500 to 3,000 words total. Now we get into the most important check of all. The one thing that exposes how that truck was truly driven. No matter how clean the oil looks, no matter how smooth the idle is, no matter how quiet the transmission shifts on a warm day, nothing reveals abuse like putting the powertrain under realistic load. This single test has prevented more catastrophic engine and transmission failures than any scan tool, and it takes less than a minute. Start with the engine fully warmed up and the road clear ahead. Accelerate gently to around 40 or 45 miles per hour and settle there for a moment. Now, without flooring it, press the accelerator down firmly enough that the truck has to downshift and build boost. You are not drag racing. You are simulating highway merging or passing another vehicle, a situation where the powertrain must respond instantly and smoothly. A healthy EcoBoost responds like it is breathing fresh air. A quick gear drop boost builds cleanly and the truck surges forward in one fluid motion. The engine speed rises smoothly and stays steady as acceleration increases. There should be no vibration through the pedal, no hesitation, no stuttering, no brief dead spot before power arrives. It should feel confident and controlled. But if the engine speed flares, then drops, then flares again before anything happens, that is the transmission slipping under boost. If the truck shudders or stumbles when you demand power, that means the spark is blowing out under boost or the injectors cannot keep up. On EcoBoost engines, failing to deliver fuel and spark correctly under load means the combustion chamber is experiencing lean conditions and high cylinder pressure, and that is where pistons crack and turbos fail. Even the tiniest misfire under load is a warning that there is already carbon choking the intake valves, or the coils and plugs are overdue for replacement. If instead of a stutter you feel a harsh thump and a delayed downshift, that is the transmission adaptive strategy struggling to compensate for worn clutches. It is already slipping, it just has not thrown a code yet, and if you smell a faint burnt odor after 1 or 2 hard accelerations, the fluid is overheated or degraded. That transmission is already tired. Once that acceleration test is complete, stay at speed and let off the throttle. Pay attention to how the downshifts feel on deceleration. A properly functioning gearbox will step down gears gently, almost invisibly, but a worn gearbox bangs through downshifts with sudden thuds because the internal hydraulic valves are sticking as the fluid moves. Each one of those jolts is a sign that thousands of dollars of repair work is on the horizon. Then comes the braking portion. Brake from that same speed and notice what the steering wheel does. If it shakes, even slightly, that means uneven rotor wear. But more importantly, it tells you the truck has been repeatedly worked hard in ways the owner never mentioned. Contractors, heavy haulers, aggressive drivers, they all leave fingerprints in the front end long before a Carfax ever does. Finally, turn into a parking lot and slow to a crawl. Crank the wheel left and right sharply while moving slowly and listen for clicking, groaning, and clunks from the front end. That reveals worn CV joints, early differential wear, tired ball joints, and neglected grease points. All of those parts are expensive to replace and absolutely should not be wearing out early unless the truck has been pushed far beyond normal use. Once you perform this load test, you will know instantly whether you are looking at a truck that has been babied or one that has been beaten like a rented mule. The load test reveals character. It reveals the truth. It reveals history that no seller will ever admit. Now let us talk about your mindset as a buyer, because one of the most dangerous things people do when buying a used Ford is fall in love too early. They walk in thinking they've found the one. The seller can sense it immediately, and suddenly, every red flag becomes a tiny yellow flag that they convince themselves to ignore. They hear a strange noise and think maybe that's normal. They see a rattling exhaust and think probably an easy fix. This is the psychology that destroys budgets and forces people into debt. So here's a rule I use every time I evaluate a vehicle. Assume the truck is guilty until it proves it is innocent, not the other way around. Assume someone neglected maintenance. Assume someone towed in the wrong mode for years. Assume someone idled the engine every day through winter. Because the trucks that are truly innocent, the ones that have been respected, maintained, and serviced on time, those trucks will pass every single test with zero excuses. I know sellers will try to distract you. They will point out the brand new tires. They will show you that $1,500 tonneau cover. They will brag about the fancy lift kit or upgraded exhaust. But none of that matters if the engine is on borrowed time. A Ford with neglected internals is like a shiny laptop filled with malware, pretty but dangerous. When you've finished all 5 checks, take a breath and be honest with yourself. Did anything feel off? Did anything smell wrong? Did the truck hesitate, stumble, rattle, smoke, or jolt in a way that gave you even a little concern? If the answer is yes, even once, you need to understand what that means long term. Because failing one of these tests usually does not mean the truck will break tomorrow, but it does mean the countdown has already started. Turbo engines do not magically heal carbon damage. Transmissions do not suddenly stop slipping. Oil dilution does not reverse itself. Once the system is compromised, you are inheriting the bill. And Ford repair bills are not cheap. Try pricing a turbo replacement. Try pricing timing chain and cam phaser work. Try pricing a 10-speed transmission overhaul. Every one of those repairs can exceed the monthly cost of owning the truck. So protect yourself. When you find a Ford that passes all 5 checks, that is when you get excited. That is when you say, this one was cared for. This one is strong. This one is worth my money. And here's the beautiful part. When you do find the right one, they are some of the best vehicles on the road. EcoBoost engines with clean internals pull like a freight train and hum smoothly for years. Properly serviced transmissions shift like butter and handle towing with confidence. A cared-for Ford is not just reliable, it is a joy to own. Before you make that deal official, there is one last power move that separates smart buyers from everyone else. Ask the seller calmly if you can bring the truck to a trusted shop for a pre-purchase inspection. You do not need a full teardown, just a lift inspection, a scan with a Ford-capable tool, a look underneath for leaks or rust, and a check on the suspension bushings and drivetrain angles. If the seller hesitates, that is a major warning. Honest sellers are proud of their maintenance and have nothing to hide. If someone starts backpedaling when you mention an inspection, they are afraid of what a trained eye will discover. A pre-purchase inspection typically costs a couple $100, and it can save you thousands. It gives you leverage if something minor turns up. It gives you protection before signing anything. And most importantly, it keeps you from buying someone else's problems. Now you understand what only professional buyers and mechanics know. You know how to read a used Ford's true condition. You know how to look past the shiny paint and touchscreen. You know how to judge the powertrain under genuine working conditions. And now when you walk up to a truck with confidence and run through these checks, you are no longer the average buyer praying they got lucky. You are evaluating the truck on your terms. A used Ford can either be the smartest purchase you make or the most expensive mistake. These 5 tests are your shield. They are your insurance. They are the truth. So before you buy any Ford, run the key fob test. Check the oil cap and dipstick. Evaluate the transmission when cold. Read the exhaust at startup and put the engine and transmission under load. If it passes all 5, congratulations, you just found a Ford worth owning. If it fails, walk away, no stress, no regret. If this helped you today, tap that like button so other Ford buyers do not get burned. Subscribe for more insider mechanic advice that dealerships will never share with you. And drop a comment below. Tell me which one of these checks surprised you the most. The more people who know this information, the fewer wallets get destroyed by bad decisions. Thanks for watching, and good luck finding the right Ford for you.